The Blue Castle has housed a variety of businesses over its 100-year history and has undergone many transformations. Our project traces the Blue Castle from the beginnings as a car barn through today as a school. Students researched, recorded, and filmed the information discovered about the Blue Castle and learned valuable research skills along the way. With this short film, we hope to preserve this information for posterity.
Basically, I'm working on the building the castle, the Big Blue Castle. It's the plans and the permits that were granted for the Big Blue Castle at the time. And so far, I found that in 1891, the Washington Georgetown Railroad Company submitted a permit for the value of $50,000, and that's like millions of dollars in our time now. But yeah, working with this, it's crazy. It's really hard to work with this. I don't understand how people did it back then. The Big Blue Castle, located on 770 M Street, Southeast Washington, D.C., has a very rich history and is one of Washington, D.C.'s historical landmarks. This rich history of the Blue Castle began in 1891 when architect Walter C. Wright designed the building to function as a car barn for the Washington and Georgetown Railroad Company. Wright was a well-known architect who entered in a partnership with his longtime friend George M. Simons. Over the course of 30 years, they were active in the planning and executing of more than 600 building operations. However, the Big Blue Castle was one of Wright's greatest projects at the time. In 1896, construction began, and it took a whopping 14 years to finish. Finally, opened its doors in 1910, standing 2 stories tall and spanning a 2-block radius in what would become one of DC's most prominent neighborhoods.
So in this case, the car barn is in area 50. So what I did was I got out that binder. And why this collection is great is it's essentially Google Street View before there was Google Street View. That's how we describe it to people.
In 1862, Congress chartered several street railway companies, one of the first being Washington and Georgetown Railway Company, which had 3 routes. Georgetown and Navy Yard, 14th Street to 14th and New York Avenue, and 7th Street to the Potomac River. In 1895, Rock Creek Railway purchased the Washington and Georgetown Railroad Company and formed the Capital Traction Company. Under the name Capital Traction Company, the construction of the Navy Yard car barn began in 1896 and ended in 1910. A portion of the building's first floor was used as office space for division officials, trainsman quarters, a sand room, and a car repair shop, while the other portion was used as car storage. In 1933, the merger of the Capital Traction Company and the Washington Railroad and Electric Company led to the forming of the Capital Transit Company. In the mid-1950s to early 1960s, the Capital Transit Company had some bumpy years. Employees asked for a raise, however, the company refused due to lack of funds, which led to a strike in 1955. Due to the strike that was very costly to the company, they had to unfortunately shut down in 1962.
If you feel that there is something missing from your storyboard, then that's the question, that's the piece of research that we need. Okay.
My research is very frustrating.
Okay.
It really is.
Wait. Never mind. I thought I found something. I didn't find anything. I'm just breathing. I'm not.
All are working on her work. It's accepting challenges, not letting not letting anything get in her way.
Okay. So right now I am researching the Transit Code as well as the U.S. Department of Labor. So I had used a map. Okay. The map was really well. I thought I wasn't going to need a map, but.
Yeah, and a lot of it's like, oh, that's really cool.
Okay. Yeah. As we do some intense page turning. I feel like.
Well, they probably got a couple.
No, 21. Okay, keep turning into nothingness. Okay, boom.
It's still here. Where is my notebook?
Right now I got a few dates, and basically it helps me do a broad research of the years I'm supposed to go to, and then I'm supposed to come to the computer to go to more specifics and know what years I'm looking for But this is the years. I'm surprised that the computer is giving me less information than the books. I'm surprised, but not really, because like these are actually recorded information, and this is recorded information put on a computer. So I'm having some trouble. That's all you have to say.
Because it really is, because like I do not know what year these buildings were in, and it's because it was so recent that I can't find it.
See,
So now I have to look in newspapers and stuff.
1976, which is not even. I mean, yeah, it's in our ballpark, an AVR ballpark. What we're trying to find. I'm happy. The Department of Labor was established on March 4th in 1913. It is a cabinet-level department, a part of the U.S. federal government that deals with things like occupational wages, hours, and rates. During the JFK administration, planning was undertaken to integrate the 20 departments that were scattered across the U.S. But in the mid-1960s, the Department of Labor was moved into the Blue Castle. While in the Blue Castle, the Department of Labor banned discrimination in the workplace, also known as the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It also launched Job Corps, which offers free education to young men and women. The Department of Labor was housed in the Blue Castle while the new labor building was being constructed in the mid-1960s on Constitution Avenue. The department moved into the new building in 1974, but it wasn't finished being built until 1975.
Tell me why you just found out that the Navy Yard was originally called the Gun Factory. It was actually originated in Arlington, New York. Then they moved to
Me and I were able to dig deep on the history of the PSI Service, Inc., located in Southeast Washington, D.C., which also happens to be Richard Wright Public Charter School next door neighbor.
The PSI program was founded in 1979 by Dr. Abramowitz. In 1988, PSI purchased the building and decided to paint over the traditional red brick, leaving the building sky blue. Since then, the color has remained, and the building has become a historical landmark across from the Navy Yard.
The PSI program is an adult daycare that provides social support for children and adults with mental illness and disabilities. The organization has several locations throughout Washington, D.C., but decided to open one central location right here at the Blue Castle.
The PSI program has grown tremendously and has been in business for 38 years. We had the opportunity to speak with Vice President Dr. Yvonne Ali. Here's what she had to say.
Okay, PSI as a program started in the 1970s. It was in 1988 when PSI bought this building, the Blue Castle. It wasn't called the Blue Castle at the time, it was a car barn. And Dr. Abramowitz, who was the owner of PSI, renamed it the Blue Castle, only because she likes blue. She painted it blue. There were about 700 people in the building at any given point, because we had the entire building. Just all kinds of different woodworking shops. It's a different kind of program, but then these people gradually moved out in the community, doing their own things because they learned here and then moved out. I have been with PSI since we started in 1979.
Dr. Ali went into detail on how the PSI program had become a valuable addition to the community.
First, this was always an easier place to get to because the public transportation, although you didn't have the Navy Yard station at the time, but you did have Eastern Market and buses running, so it was easier for people. It was easy for people to get to. It seemed like a central location based on where many of the people that we served were living.
In the early 2000s, several DC public charter schools have occupied the Blue Castle. In 2001, 3 public charter schools occupied the Blue Castles simultaneously. Eagles Academy Elementary School occupied the first floor, while KIPP DC Academy and Washington Mathematics, Science, and Technology occupied the second floor. KIPP DC Key Academy departed the Blue Castle in 2004 because of the rent increase. 1 year later, WMST left, leaving Eagles Academy the only school inside the Blue Castle until 2011. In 2012, the wonderful Richard Wright Public Charter School of Journalism and Media Arts moved in.
People may wonder, what's next for the Blue Castle? Are there any more lives left after 9? Redevelopment in the Navy Yard has changed the local businesses and culture of the neighborhood. But how long will the Blue Castle last?
We hope this project inspires other people to conduct their own research about the historical people, places, and things that make up the beautiful city of Washington, D.C.